Hello, I'm Sean Gaston, and this is a quick poster presentation on Pathé records in India that I put together with Dr. Suresh Chandvankar. Pathé was instrumental in the early recording of local Indian talent, and being a non-English label, proved to be essential to the early era of the Indian independence movement. Michael Kinnear's article in the Record News was an early inspiration for this presentation. His writings were an invaluable resource, as was the work of A.N. Sharma. While Kinnear was an encyclopedia of knowledge on Indian disc records, A.N. Sharma discovered the earliest Indian cylinder recordings. We would also like to thank Sonny Matthew for help with the poster design, and Don Wilson for making physical copies of some of the discs mentioned. Pathé's recordings in India started with Hemendra Mohan Bose's cylinder recordings. These began to be released on disc around 1908 and were given their own series. Later, Pathé would send their own engineers in on recording expeditions, and those recordings formed the remainder of the Pathé catalog. Pathé found its start in India with local entrepreneur Hemendra Mohan Bose, who began making cylinder recordings of friends such as Rabindranath Tagore. He used Pathé cylinders, and it was quickly decided that Bose would be the primary source of Indian recordings for the label. When Pathé made the shift to disc recordings, naturally they reissued his cylinders on the new format, specifying that they were H. Bose recordings and giving him his own number series. Here are some more of his. Note the Tagore disc second from left on the bottom row. Early on, the amateur and female singers proved popular, and these formed the bulk of the catalog at the time. Bose demonstrated that there could be Indian-made recordings, primarily of local interest and talent, and throughout his cylinders and discs ran an early thread of Indian independence. Bose's alliance with the Swadeshi movement attracted the attention of English authorities, however, who came and destroyed the contents of his shop. It was around 1901 that Pathé decided to relegate Bose to more background roles in the process. By this point, Pathé was sending their own engineers to record in India and put the Indian recordings under the umbrella of their growing Asian market. Bose still remained in the distribution position and served very loosely as an A&R man, but sometimes Pathé chose to record better-known acts. Note the appearance of Bal Gandharva, one of the most prolific of early male singers in India, on the top right. Pathé also managed to record the famous and prolific Gohar Jan. This is a sample of that record. Most of the Indian Pathé releases were either 8 or 11 inches, with the 11-inch size becoming more prominent as time went on. While the Bose-era discs are treated with a strong historical reverence, practically any of the releases on the label that still exist are only in a handful of copies, if not the only copy. Here are some of the earlier adverts for Bose's Pathé recordings. Note the cylinder shelves in the Talking Machine Hall. These are later adverts from the post-Bose era. These show some of the variety of records on the Indian Pathé catalog of the post-Bose era. There are some amateur artists, such as Minada Sundari, who performed classical selections, and Bhagwan Das, who was something of a novelty stage performer. There were recordings from the Quran, part of an actual set of such recordings. Then you have Janki Bai, the legendary female singer, recording on break from HMV. Also note the Abdul Karim recording on the bottom left. While it is known that the legendary Abdul Karim Khan recorded for Pathé, none of his records for the label have ever surfaced. So to find any of these records with Abdul Karim on the label would make any collector's heart jump. This recording, however, is by Abdul Karim Jafar, the famous stage musician at the time. We're going to close out with a sample from that record. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in contact with us. By all means, check out the A.N. Sharma book as well as Kinnear's work. Thanks again.